What is going on, y'all? Thank y'all for tuning in to another episode of Outside Looking In. I'm your host, Dale Watkins. I'm just an outsider looking into the biggest sports news headlines of the last week. And what a last week it has been. Just some crazy NFL games, some NBA news. So, let's not waste any time. Let's get right into the thick of things because I want to discuss a lot with y'all. Got a number of topics that I want to get to today. But first and foremost, obviously, I want to start with the Oakland Raiders and the San Francisco 49ers, respectively. Both teams playing 2-0 teams this past weekend, but we'll start with the Oakland Raiders. Dropping to 0-3. They lost to the Dolphins in Miami, 28-20. I'm just over it, to be honest with you. I'm kind of low-key disgusted with kind of the ending of that game, the inability of these Raiders to finish out games, to essentially run out of gas in the second half, primarily the fourth quarter, most notably. And it's beyond me how the Raiders can't put a full 60 minutes of football together. They play well in the first half, the first two quarters, first 2.5 quarters, and then just fall apart. They just face plant in Miami, and they blew a second half lead for the third straight game. All of their losses this year have been blown second half leads. They've been outscored 37-3 in fourth quarters of these first three games, 35-17 in first halves. But they get outscored 64-17 in second halves. It really is a tale of two halves, and I just can't put my finger on it, man. And, I know there's a fair share of blame to go around. John Gruden's still looking for his first win as Raiders head coach. He's on a 7-game losing streak dating back to his last head coaching tenure over a decade ago. Despite the loss, you got to look at, Derek Carr. He had a pretty good game. He had an okay game. The stats might show otherwise, but he had 27 of 39, 345 yards for a touchdown. But he did throw 2 more interceptions to add to his season-long total now. He's up to 5 interceptions in 3 games. 2 touchdown passes to 5 interceptions. That is a terrible touchdown to turnover ratio. These 2 interceptions, one was just a Hail Mary, threw into triple coverage trying to hit Amari Cooper. I don't know why he had 3 guys on him down the field. And another one, just a careless pass. Both of his interceptions intercepted by Xavier Howard. I know that name will resonate in Derek Carr's mind for until his next game. But Jordy Nelson, Jared Cook, these 2 receivers played really well. They had huge games, some huge pass plays for big gains down the field. The very first play from scrimmage, you saw Carr hit Nelson in stride and him strut up the sideline for 60 yards, and that was kind of set the tone for what I expected to be a really good output from the Raiders offense. And the Raiders go down and score on the first drive. A big play got them near the goal line at 4th and inches, and they cannot score. They tried to run it in 3 straight times, were unsuccessful in all of them. And it just comes back to missed opportunities here and there. Like, you couldn't convert on that 4th and inch. If you can't gain a yard in the National Football League, I don't believe you deserve to win the game, to be quite honest with you. Inability to convert on third downs, as well as stop the other team from fourth down situations, and a dropped Amari Cooper pass would have kept a potential scoring drive alive. So just shooting themselves in the foot, careless penalties as well. These sometimes remind me of the Raiders of old, the Raiders that we've all come to know and hate, and we don't really we expect change under a new head coach, but it seems like the culture is still alive and well there. And the defense, the back seven, where are y'all at? Could you please tackle somebody? You're giving up way too many yards on the ground. You saw Jakeem Grant, Albert Wilson for the Dolphins. Give credit to them. Of course, they had tremendous games, but they just blow through through the defense, scissoring through them, or just bursting ahead untouched, running up the sideline for a touchdown. As we saw Jakeem Grant, in the fourth quarter, just take the handoff, run through to the end zone. Not a finger touched them. So they definitely got to work on that. The Raiders, please learn how to tackle in the secondary. Please earn your paychecks. There's no reason for the Raiders to be a minus 29 in point differential. Third worst in the league to Buffalo and Arizona. And I would argue that Buffalo is a better team than the Raiders are at this point in time. Just Arizona can't get out of their own way. And the absence of Khalil Mack, I keep going back to it, just becomes more and more apparent. Mack, meanwhile in Chicago, he's had a sack and a forced fumble in 3 straight games, and he's only the first guy to do it since Khalil Mack 2 years ago. My goodness, this defense needs a makeover. John Gruden, back to the booth, my man. If you lose to the Browns next week in Oakland, in your own home, you go to 0-4, and I would officially declare this season a failed experiment with John Gruden. And boy, it is going to be a long, however long John Gruden is with the Raiders. He's signed for 10 years, $100 million, fully guaranteed, and I think the clock is ticking. I think he's already on the hot seat. Raiders fans are disgusted. He dropped to 0-4. I think this season you can book it as good as gone. But hey, I'm a ride or die. I'm gonna sink with the ship if it does indeed sink. But I want to be there to support the Raiders. They host Cleveland next week, and Baker Mayfield and Jarvis Landry. That should be a good game. I will be in attendance for that game. Looking forward to it. Raiders got to get in the win column, plain and simple. And they got to right the ship. They need to put a complete 60 minutes of football together. Offense, defense, special teams need to do a better job all the way around. Let's move to the 49ers now. Jimmy Garoppolo out for the season with a torn ACL. That was the main takeaway from that game. Chiefs defeat the 49ers 38-27 at Arrowhead and remain one of 3 unbeaten teams in the National Football League. The Chiefs, along with the Dolphins and the LA Rams, who I think are the best team in football right now. Garoppolo, if we remember, signed in the offseason a 5-year, $138 million contract this offseason. And he's riding a 5-game winning streak from last season into this season, turning around a completely sunken ship from last season, where the 49ers were 1-10 before Garoppolo was traded from New England over. And he completely turned that season around under a very tumultuous situation. It was not, Garoppolo didn't have the requisite parts. He did not have good offensive weapons that he had at his disposal in these first 3 games. And you feel for him. It's a crushing loss. And we saw the 49ers plummet from near 10, 12 in the NFL power rankings to, Raiders territory near the bottom of the barrel. And we saw the play. We get what Garoppolo was trying to do, trying to get extra yards, trying to get that first down, but the first down stick was a good 4 yards away from where the injury occurred. Up the sideline, you saw him kind of try to wiggle his way to get an extra yard or 2 before getting out of bounds. And I wish he would have just gotten out of bounds. This whole ordeal could have been completely avoided if Garoppolo just, stepped out of bounds instead of turning himself into a runner at that point once he escaped the pocket and lowering his shoulder into the defender. But his knee buckled before that hit, so that hit had nothing to do with Garoppolo's injury. His knee buckled from behind him, and then he was taken out of bounds, and that was the end of it. As we know, this is his 6th year in the league. He spent his first several seasons in New England, obviously behind one of the greatest, if not the greatest quarterback of all time, Tom Brady. Got to learn from him, be in his shadow, and just soak all of his knowledge up like a sponge. And here he is in technically his first full season as a starting NFL quarterback, and this happens. It's terrible. It's an egregious injury. It's awful, and I feel for Garoppolo, and I feel for Niner fans who had so much to hope for in this upcoming season. They definitely had a promising schedule, I think a favorable schedule, and it just sucks that Garoppolo has to go down this way. Meanwhile, if you saw, Garoppolo is certainly a handsome guy. He's one of his exes who just so happened to be a model. Her name is Alexandra King. I read the story just tonight. She happened to take a subtle shot at Garoppolo on her Instagram story with just a black screen with one word, karma, and a smiling emoji, which is really, you can't take that as anything else but a shot at Jimmy. Her ex, they have since separated, and it's since been deleted after like 2 hours of it posting. But that's just you never wish injury on anybody. That's just inhuman of you to wish to be happy about anyone being injured. Come on, you're better than that. Meanwhile, Patrick Mahomes on the other side for Kansas City Chiefs. That kid is electrifying. Second-year man out of Texas Tech. He is truly special, truly box office. I would pay to go watch him play, and he's gonna light up the Raiders at the Coliseum as well. He was tremendous. He's up to 13 touchdown passes now in 3 games, and over 300 yards passing again. And there's this one play where he took the snap, was evading pressure, ducked underneath pressure, was not, then rolled out to his right, flushed out of the pocket, on the run, flinged it to the back corner of the end zone for a touchdown to his receiver. And I just thought, wow, that's reminiscent of Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers. Only those kind of guys of that caliber can make that kind of throw. And that kid is just amazing. But yeah, Garoppolo done for the season, and it's Bethard time apparently. I would like for the 49ers to bring in a new starting quarterback or a backup quarterback to C.J. Beathard, obviously, because you can't survive with just one quarterback on the roster. Viable options around the league. People scream Colin Kaepernick any time a quarterback goes down, and that ship has sailed, and I'm not going to get into that anymore. Tyrod Taylor of the Cleveland Browns, he was concussed and benched for Baker Mayfield. He's a viable option. And Robert Griffin III out of Baltimore, he's at 3rd string over there behind Joe Flacco and Lamar Jackson. That would be an interesting spot. I think RG3 still has it in the tank, and he's a good man. He's just a great person, and I think would step in and fit nicely. But the 49ers have been suffering injuries left and right. You saw in that Kansas City game and the week before that, just bodies hitting the ground seemingly every offensive possession, and it's just kind of an epitome of how this season has gone for the 49ers. Just can't stay healthy, can't stay on the field, and certainly wish the best to Jimmy Garoppolo. Meanwhile, let's move on to the Buffalo Bills defeating the Vikings in one of the biggest upsets in NFL history. Up in Minnesota, 27-6. The Buffalo Bills were 0-2 Vikings, giving the Vikings their first loss of the season. Bills coming in at a 17-point underdog with no LaShawn McCoy, on the road in one of the toughest environments in all of football to play as the opposition. It is now the Josh Allen era in Buffalo, and the Buffalo Bill fans certainly have been through a lot, but Josh looks really good, and he looked tremendous. We saw what he did at Wyoming. You know, Wyoming played San Jose State last year before he went into the draft, and I loved what I saw. I was watching through the highlights of this game, and Josh is terrific. He's mobile. He's got a cannon for an arm. Just great football instincts, great football IQ. Is able to locate his receiver and put it right into their numbers on time and on target with as much precision as you could possibly want from a rookie quarterback in the NFL. Stepping in, this was his first start in this kind of environment without a starting running back as a 17-point underdog. I don't know how much harder it can get as your first start as an NFL rookie. But for the Vikings, they did not show up to play. I don't know if some people got left on the bus. They slept on the wrong side of the bed that morning. I certainly look at this as kind of as a trap game for the Vikings, in a sense that they were looking ahead to Thursday's game against the LA Rams. They just thought the Bills was going to be an easy W, pencil that in as a win in the win column. We're on to the Rams. We're not even thinking about the Bills, not even giving them the time of day. But Bills had other ideas, and Josh Allen lit them up. So with Tyrod Taylor now in Cleveland, Nathan Peterman, Mr. 5 interceptions in one half, riding the pine, it's Josh Allen's team now, and deservedly so. Let's move to the Battle of LA now. Rams defeating the Chargers by a score of 35-23. An all-around great game by both quarterbacks for that game. Jared Goff for the Rams and Phillip Rivers of the Chargers, just going back and forth. And it was a tremendous QB duel. What I took away from this game was that the offensive line for the Rams gave Jared Goff all kinds of time to throw, only gave up 1 sack in that game, and I believe only a couple pressures. Goff rarely had to escape the pocket, and Goff certainly much more effective from the pocket than he is moving around as, say, like a Josh Allen, like a Baker Mayfield to that extent. And Goff was able to complete those throws. And these Rams are looking serious. They are 3-0 and with no signs of slowing down. They are firing on all cylinders from top to bottom. I think this team is a legitimate Super Bowl contender, and I think they have the most talent in the league from top to bottom. You look around, they are stacked on both sides of the ball, offense, defense, special teams. Jared Goff is just continuing to ascend, continuing to prove himself as a legitimate NFL quarterback. And you have Brandon Cooks, Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods holding down the receiving core, and they've been tremendous. Robert Woods went off in this game. And then you look on the other side of the ball with Aaron Donald and Ndamukong Suh, Ogba. That's his last name. I don't remember his first name. It's too difficult to pronounce. Holding down the defensive line, Michael Brockers in the linebacking core. You have Marcus Peters, Aqib Talib, LaMarcus Joyner, shutting down some of the top receivers. Not even top receivers, but just the receivers for the other team. They've been tremendous, and just from top to bottom. I know I wish I had the LA Rams on my fantasy team, but I don't. So I'm stuck with the Denver defense, and they have been not as stout as this LA Rams team. Nonetheless, Rams moved to 3-0, and the Chargers drop to 1-2. 2-1, excuse me. So just to look around the top games from week 3 in the NFL. Let's take a quick break, and when I come back, we'll get into a little bit of NBA talk. We'll talk a little bit about this roughing the passer fiasco in the NFL. Certainly Clay Matthews has something to say about that, but we're going to take a quick break and be right back after this. Listening to Outside Looking In on 90.5 KSJS.
KSJS would like to invite you to tune in every Thursday from 5 to 6 p.m. for Sports Weekly. On Sports Weekly, we're going to immerse you in the sports world, talking about everything from the MLB, NBA, NFL, local sports, and everything in between. So tune in to Sports Weekly from 5 to 6 p.m. every Thursday here on 90.5 FM KSJS Ground Zero Radio.
And welcome back to Outside Looking In here on 90.5 KSJS. Outside Looking In. Obviously, I'm an outsider looking in to the biggest sports headlines in the sports world. I'm your host, Dale Watkins, again. I appreciate y'all tuning in to this second edition of this podcast, and hope you guys are enjoying it so far, but I got a lot more show for y'all. Let's get back into the thick of things, y'all. Got one more game I want to cover from the NFL in Week 3, Steelers and Bucks. Steelers really needed this win. They've been a mess, just a dysfunctional team to begin the season, with Le'Veon Bell continuing to hold out, and now Antonio Brown, voicing his displeasure with Mike Tomlin, the head coach, and many in the media landscape talking about that Mike Tomlin has completely lost his locker room, has lost the trust of being a mediator for his troops, and but that was put to rest. Had they lost this game, I think Mike Tomlin would have lost his job in the near future. He has been on the hot seat for about 2 years now, but one of the longest tenured active head coaches in the league still. But they bounced back from a tie and a loss to defeat the Buccaneers and Ryan Fitzmagic 30-27 down in Tampa. And Fitzpatrick, he has come back down to earth. I know I had him on my fantasy team as well, starting for me, but the magic kind of ran out. He was the first quarterback to ever throw for 400 plus yards in 3 straight games. No other quarterback has achieved that mark, and despite the loss, Fitzpatrick once again breaking another record. He led a valiant comeback effort late in the game to bring the Bucs close, but the Steelers and James Conner just proved to be too much for the Buccaneers late. Ryan Fitzpatrick threw for over 400 yards, yet he had 3 interceptions. You can make the case that 2 of them weren't his fault. One was batted, one the receiver slipped, or another reporter said that he mistimed his route, that he didn't cut back fast enough. So you can't really put 2 of those 3 interceptions on him, but one of those was returned for a pick 6 deep in his own end zone. He was at the 2-yard line, and that was the one where his receiver wasn't running his route correctly, and Bud Dupree of the Steelers took it back to the house for 6 points. So Fitzpatrick coming back down to earth just a little bit. Talk a little bit about James Conner, Le'Veon Bell's replacement thus far, and he's been great. He's been absolutely sensational with the kind of journey that he has had to the NFL, being diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, and didn't know how long he would be able to play football, let alone live. It is truly a tragedy for someone to be diagnosed at such a young age with one of these horrendous diseases. And James Conner overcoming adversity. Just a couple of years ago, he didn't know whether he would play football again, and here he is now, the starting running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and closing out the ball game down in Tampa with some huge third down conversions. Tampa Bay ran out of timeouts, and that was that. So the Buccaneers now are 2-1, and they face a dilemma now with Jameis Winston coming back from his 3-game suspension. What do they do with Ryan Fitzpatrick, Jameis Winston? Who do you start? Me personally, I think you got to ride the hot hand and ride it for as long as it's hot. And Ryan Fitzpatrick has been that hot hand that that the Buccaneers have grown to love. He's an amazing locker room guy and just a great team player. Has a great head and on his shoulders, and is just an all-around great teammate. And I think that resonates more so with the Buccaneers than Jameis does coming back. I know Jameis Winston is that team's franchise quarterback, but he's got to re-earn the respect, the trust of his teammates because most of his issues have come off the field. But on the field, he's a tremendous football player, and time will tell. Time will tell. I think I see Fitzpatrick making it through Week 8, still as the team's starting quarterback, but I think he has a short leash on him now that the dog behind him is coming to retake his spot. And so yeah, Steelers 30, Bucks 27, but Ryan Fitzpatrick has become one of my favorite players in the NFL. What has been going on with this roughing the passer dilemma? The referees deciding what is too much or not enough of pass rushers rushing the quarterback, and Clay Matthews was flagged yet again, sacking Alex Smith, with what appeared to be a textbook tackle. This is how you teach elementary school kids, middle school kids, and Pop Warner and the like of how to tackle a player. And as Alex Smith threw that ball, Clay Matthews met him immediately as he was throwing, if not before he was throwing, before his release point. And it seemed like this was an even more gentle tackle than when he was first flagged for this ridiculous kind of a deal. And Clay said after the game that I think this league is going in a direction that I don't think people like, that the league is getting soft, and I kind of halfway agree. Referees make the case that if you place your entire body weight on the quarterback, that you just 270, 80 pounds just completely flat backing the quarterback, then that's the penalty. And I know this is, in a sense, the Rodgers rule, because last year that's how Aaron Rodgers broke his collarbone with a similar kind of play that Clay Matthews committed. But Clay Matthews was it was a textbook tackle is what I'm trying to say. Like there was nothing to argue. I mean, he grabbed Aaron Rodgers and brought him to the ground, not maliciously or anything like that. It's not like he swung him around, body slammed him WWE style to the ground. That's ridiculous. And I think the league needs to get it sorted out. At this point in the season, last year there were only 18 roughing the passer penalties up to this point, and this year that number is up to 35 in week 3, and so that's nearly double. And the league has to do something about it. They got to address this situation because it's only going to get worse. We saw this in the Raiders and Dolphins game when one of the Dolphins linebackers, I believe his name is William Hayes, was about to sack Derek Carr. Derek Carr releases the ball, and in that split moment in time, William Hayes adjusted his body to the side to avoid having all of his 300-pound self land right on top of Derek Carr. And as a result of that, his ankle or knee got buckled up in such a weird way. It landed funny, and he has a torn ACL. He's out for the season because of that. And all because he was trying to avoid a penalty, that he suffered this injury, which is truly egregious. It is egregious, man. So Clay Matthews has a point. He even went up to Alex Smith after that flag to say, was that roughing the passer that time? And I know he's sick and tired of it. Us as fans are kind of ticked off that there's just this lack of consistency amongst calls from coast to coast in this league. But that's definitely an area needing to be addressed. All right, we're going to take another quick commercial break here on 90.5 KSJS. We got Jimmy Butler and NBA Media Day on the other side of this break. Don't touch that dial. Tune in to Outside Looking In. I'm your host, Dale Watkins. We'll be right back.
Yeah.
We're not mainstream, we're not commercial, we keep it real, down with the underground. Ground Zero Radio, your station, 90.5 KSJS.
I never knew a la like 90.5 KSJS. 90.5 KSJS.
What's going on, sports fans? If you want to stay updated with your favorite teams from the MLB, NFL, NBA, NHL, and the Bay Area local scene, make sure to check out Sports Weekly every Thursday night from 5 to 6 p.m. only here on 90.5 FM KSJS. From the Bay Area to the East Coast, we got you covered on Sports Weekly, where analysis meets personality. This message brought to you by 90.5 KSJS. And that is the station y'all are tuned into. Welcome back to Outside Looking In. I'm your host, Dale Watkins, once again. So we covered the NFL. Spent a long time on that. Let's move into another sport, my favorite sport, the NBA. Let's get into Jimmy Butler. The trade saga continues. It's just a matter of time now before he gets the hell out of freezing Minnesota. We heard a report last week that he prefers either the Nets, Clippers, or Knicks as his teams of preference to be traded to out of Minnesota. But now a report has reportedly surfaced that he prefers to be traded to Miami now, that he wants to reunite with Dwayne Wade, and he has a lot of friends along the Heat roster. And so now, hey, I saw one of those Miami Vice alternate jerseys for the Heat, photoshopped on Jimmy Butler, and let me tell you, those look pretty clean, and they look even clean on Butler. I think he's made to be in that jersey. I don't know how he would fit on that team, though. It already lacks three-point shooting as it's already constructed. I think Goran Dragic, Wayne Ellington is the best shooter on that team, and then you have Goran Dragic second, and then from then on, I don't know who's shooting threes for you. You look up and down, you have Dion Waiters, not really a three-point shooter. Dwayne Wade was never much of a three-point shooter all throughout his career, and here he is standing as the third or fourth best shooting guard of all time, greatest shooting guard of all time, top five definitely. The bigs can't really step out and shoot the ball as well as some of the modern stretch fours do in the NBA, like a Kevin Love, like a Draymond Green, like a Blake Griffin. These guys have expanded their game beyond the three-point arc, and I don't see that out of the Heat. And Butler would certainly not help. He's not a great three-point shooter by any stretch of the imagination. I think he was 34% from beyond the arc last year. And there was kind of a three-team trade that was rumored to potentially come to fruition. The Wolves contacting the Heat would have to bring in a third team to facilitate this trade, and that would have been the Phoenix Suns. So the report is that it would be a three-team trade, potentially, that would send Jimmy Butler to Miami, it would send Goran Dragic to Minnesota, and it would send Jeff Teague of the Timberwolves to Phoenix. I know Phoenix has been devoid of any sufficient point guard for quite some time. And Devin Booker is the face of that franchise, which ideally you want to have him at the at the shooting guard, putting up buckets for you. I know he's been putting up buckets for his entire 4-year career, but they've kind of been empty because they haven't resulted in wins. Suns have been the bottom of the barrel team, a doormat in the Western Conference for, dare I say, 6-8 years since Charles Barkley was there, since Steve Nash, excuse me. But Jimmy Butler. I mean, this has to be done. He's made it clear he does not want to play in Minnesota. He doesn't want to play with Andrew Wiggins or Karl Anthony Towns anymore. He's repeatedly thrown them under the bus, and he's made it clear that he's not a fan of them. He's not a fan of their lackluster attitude, and Karl Anthony Towns just inked a 5-year, $190 million supermax extension with the Timberwolves, and that is just a non-verbal dig at Butler, saying this is our franchise cornerstone right here, KAT, and we're definitely listening to trade offers, for you, so you can get up and out of here, because Karl Anthony Towns is our new franchise cornerstone. But that has to get done sooner rather than later. I read a story, after Game 5 of the first round in the playoffs, after the T-Wolves lost to the Rockets, Butler didn't fly back to Minnesota from Houston with his team. He flew solo. He flew private, and we've heard reports that he's a locker room cancer, that he's not the greatest teammate in the world, that he's not as supportive as you would expect out of not even just a teammate, but as a human being. And then this comes out saying that Jimmy Butler wouldn't even fly home with the Timberwolves. Walking out of that arena was the last time that you saw him with that team, and truly a shame. He's a tremendous talent, but sometimes the intangible outweighs the tangible. NBA Media Day took place beginning on Monday. Several different teams, having theirs either on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and this is a day that all the media members, all the media outlets look forward to on the daily, so they can get their interviews, get their stories, get their sound bites, so they can edit around those, and we get to see a lot of familiar faces in new places in their new jerseys that they're sporting for this season, and my gosh, there are plenty of them. Let's start up in Toronto with Kawhi Leonard being introduced as an official member of the Toronto Raptors, and he had this funny question right off the bat. One reporter asked him, Kawhi, what do you want people to know about you? And Kawhi, very, very subtly, kind of caught off guard, looked straight in the camera, and with kind of his deep Kawhi Leonard stare, looked at him like this, and said, well, I'm a fun guy, and obviously I love the game of basketball, and I love seeing his sense of humor, which is kind of a rarity. Happens once in a blue moon. And after that he said, I don't even know where you're sitting at, and he let out the most funny laugh that I have ever heard out of anyone. I promise you, anyone. And I cracked up. I'm sure a ton of people cracked up, but this is we're kind of hypocritical as sports fans. We always rag on and badger Kawhi Leonard for being non-emotional, for being borderline antisocial, for being awkward, for just not talking and being an emotionless robot, right? And then here he is just trying to have fun, crack a joke, and have a good laugh, and immediately the internet crucifies him, the internet explodes, and you have TV personalities on sports talk shows laughing at Kawhi Leonard's laugh. Like, that's not cool, man. I mean it really is not. I mean, you can have your laugh once, but to go on TV to laugh at him is really not cool. Now I don't blame Kawhi for being who he is, and I don't blame him for not wanting to laugh or trying to be someone who he's not. So he's got respect for me, but y'all gotta lay off him. You gotta give my man a break, please. Meanwhile, we got to see LeBron James, of course, in LA now for the Lakers. He signed that 4-year, $134 million deal with the Lakers this offseason, leaving Cleveland. And I gotta say, I still can't believe it. I still can't. It still looks different seeing LeBron in purple and gold. I'm not a fan of the Lakers' new jerseys, though, where it's basically not gold anymore, neon yellow, though, and magenta, if anything. But looking forward to that team. Looking forward to, how LeBron is, going to coexist with Lonzo Ball, Rajon Rondo, Michael Beasley, who's a straight-up bucket getter. He's like Carmelo 2.0. And JaVale McGee, former Warrior. So, looking forward to seeing how the Lakers do this year. They're definitely a contender in the Western Conference. Any team that LeBron is on is a lock for the playoffs, and I would argue a contender to make it to the finals. I think he can take any team to the finals. And then we see Boogie Cousins, DeMarcus Cousins, introduced for the first time as a Golden State Warrior in a Warriors uniform with the other core four, the other big four for the Warriors. And I really liked one of his sound bites when one reporter asked him, what keeps you going? I know it was a long road back to recovery, but what was your motivation during that time? Like what do you feed off of? And Boogie Cousins, without a shadow of a doubt, replied, "The haters, they're all I need." And that was savagery at its finest, because I know basically if you sign up to play for the Warriors, you're signing up to get hated on, just because the Warriors are the best team and have been for 4 years now, and will continue to be for as long as the core four are intact. Which reminds me that Klay Thompson's contract expires next year. Draymond Green's contract expires next year. Kevin Durant's contract expires next year. So those three, you really got to keep an eye on. You definitely have to account for Kevin Durant has taken a pay cut to allow Andre Iguodala to be re-signed, to allow other bench players to be re-signed. And Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson have been rumored to be, on the Lakers' radar for the Lakers to target them in free agency next offseason. So Kevin Durant teaming up with LeBron James, that with the two best players in the NBA on the same squad, that would be nuts. And it's also rumored that since Anthony Davis signed with Clutch Sports, the same agency that LeBron is signed with, that is kind of the first domino to fall. That there's a little nudge on the shoulder to the NBA fan, be like, hey, this is something to watch out for. Anthony Davis is signed with the same agent that LeBron is for. Does that mean that Anthony Davis is going to the Lakers? I mean, it's kind of a far-fetched idea that one of these two would go over there. Shannon Sharp on Undisputed said this morning that obviously he's now a Laker fan because LeBron's on there, and he said, "Oh, we're getting a D, either KD or AD, one of the two, or both. We'll take both." Shannon Sharp, obviously one of my favorite TV personalities, just super funny guy, and it's. Laker fans have been talking that talk about them landing a superstar free agent or superstar free agents for years now, for almost a decade, and I've kind of gotten tired of it. That's why I'm kind of glad that LeBron has gone to LA to kind of shut them up momentarily, and but they're still talking. When Paul George spurned them to stay with the Thunder, they were like, "Oh, we don't need Paul George anyway." When Kawhi Leonard was traded from the Spurs to the Raptors, Laker fans said, "Nah, we didn't need Kawhi Leonard anyway. We got LeBron James." So, that's Laker fans in a nutshell. They really are. But we'll see. It's kind of the meme team. LeBron coined JaVale McGee, Michael Beasley, Rajon Rondo, and Lance Stevenson as the Mud team when a social media outlet asked them to name this group Mud. Motivated, underappreciated, determined. But you could reverse that around and just call them dumb because, you got some dumb players on the Lakers anyway. As we have seen throughout their careers, JaVale McGee, Lance Stevenson kind of making some bonehead plays. Michael Beasley, obviously just addicted to, smoking weed. But yeah, that's LeBron's team, and he'll have to make it work. It's up to him. He's in his 16th season now, but never doubt the greatest player in the world today. NBA preseason is around the corner. Is it just me, or did NFL just start and then now NBA preseason is tipping off this Friday, and the Warriors host their first preseason game at Oracle on Saturday night against the Minnesota Timberwolves, and I don't think Jimmy Butler will be there. Butler has, cut himself off completely from the Timberwolves, has not responded to Tom Thibodeau's or any of Wolves management's texts or calls, unfollowed several Wolves on Instagram. I'd imagine he's unfollowed Cat for sure for stealing his Supermax contract, but that's neither here nor there. So wish Butler all the best, but I hope this deal gets done soon. We're going to take one last break here on Outside Looking In. Hope y'all are enjoying the show. I'm Dale Watkins once again, and we'll be right back after this when we talk Tiger Woods and some San Jose State sports. Don't touch that dial. Listening to 90.5 KSJS.
You're listening to the KSJS Spotlight.
An in-depth look at managers and PJs of 90.5 FM, KSJS.
Today's Spotlight.
Hi, my name is Nick Martinez. I'm the KSGS General Manager. I think my favorite memory, one of the first shows I did was an urban show, and I really didn't know all the underground scene. I was really, like most kids coming up, listening to the popular music, top 40, and I got a call, and I was asked to play this little white boy playing out of New York, but he's actually originally from Detroit, called Eminem. And back then, we had all these vinyls, and we would look through and pull a song for the listener, and so I pulled it out, I looked for it, I couldn't find it, and I never got to the song, and I never could play it for this listener, and it wasn't until a month later that I found out that Eminem is spelled with an E first, and not just an M. So that was always a cool memory.
For more information on individual departments or joining the station, visit ksjs.org.
And this has been the KSJS Spotlight. Thank you for listening.
Education today is very important to success, but what if you don't have the money? FAFSA, or Free Application for Federal Student Aid, can earn you money for your college tuition, books, and more. You can get grants, loans, and work-study funds from the government just by applying online. It's a first-come, first-served basis, so apply before it's too late. For more information, you can call the Financial Aid and Scholarship Office at 408-283-7500 and press 6. This message brought to you by 90.5 FM KSJS. Welcome back to Outside Looking In, y'all. This is the final block of sports stories that I got for you. And I appreciate y'all tuning in as well. Thank you for sticking with me through this podcast that I hope to continue for weeks to come. This is something I really enjoy doing, and I hope you've enjoyed the show thus far. All right, returning to the sports world, how about Tiger Woods, winning the Tour Championship with his first win in over 5 years, his 80th PGA Tour win overall. Just an illustrious career, and he's still going strong. Finished with 1 over par, with a final score of 71, and it was quite the scene over there at that golf course, with just thousands of spectators flocking him, and just following him wherever he went. And, all eyes were on him, he was the hot ticket. He was the hot commodity. We knew why that huge crowd was there. They were there to see Tiger Woods and nobody else. But just you got to give Tiger credit with a long journey back from multiple back surgeries, recovering from DUI and clearing himself from that cheating scandal. We all saw that mugshot from when he was found guilty of that DUI, and that still is a funny image in the back of people's heads if they remember. But shout out goes to Tiger, one of the greatest male athletes of this generation, up there with LeBron James, Serena Williams at the top of their sport, Michael Phelps as well. But yeah, Tiger, writing history once again with his 80th PGA Tour win over the weekend. How about them Oakland A's though, winning 9-3 on Wednesday? Matt Olson with a grand slam in the 5th inning to cap off a 6-run 5th inning for the Oakland A's, who move now just a game and a half back of the New York Yankees for that first wild card spot. And obviously the first wild card spot will host the second wild card spot. So Yankees and A's, they're kind of slotted in for those two spots. It's just a matter of who will have home field advantage and for the wild card game, and that will loom large. You don't want to travel across the country to play one game, do or die, and then lose. It'll be a long 5-hour flight back. Chris Davis, how about him? He has had a sensational season, just one of the most electrifying players in all of baseball. He is the American League home run leader as it stands right now, hitting his 47th home run in that 6-run 5th inning to allow the A's to run away from the Mariners 9-3 up in Seattle. A's will travel to the Angels for their final series beginning on Friday, and the Yankees will be at the Red Sox in one of the greatest rivalries in all of sports for their final series. Should be a good finish to the end of the baseball regular season, and Giants fans have had their years of a domination, up and down MLB, but now it's the A's time, and I think their time is now. It's their time now to get it done, and I'm rooting for them. I think most of the baseball world will be rooting for the underdog A's should they have to play at the Yankees up in New York. But that remains to be seen. That wild card game will be happening next week, and that will decide who will make it into the ALDS. Last topic I got for y'all today, of course, we are at San Jose State University, so I got to cover that homecoming game that'll be coming up this Saturday. Got San Jose State versus the Hawaii Rainbow Warriors. Talk about a mascot right there. San Jose State's still looking for their first win of the season. They are 0-3, and Hawaii looking to improve to 5-1. They are 4-1 in this regular season as it stands right now. The San Jose State team definitely going through a lot of renovation, a lot of turnover, a very young, very inexperienced offensive line. We all saw the games against Washington State and Oregon, just the inability to protect their quarterback, Montel Aaron, and I think that'll play a huge factor again against this Hawaii team who boasts several notable pass rushers, and that offensive line for the Spartans will definitely be put to the test. But Hawaii coming in as a double-digit favorite for this game, and the Spartans have been, the underdog in every game that they play. They haven't had a winning season since their 2015 season, so but definitely looking for them to get their first win at CEFCU Stadium Saturday at 4 p.m. That is when kickoff is. There are plenty of pregame festivities, pregame parties, after parties. So, it's gonna be a fun weekend. I know I'm gonna be out there watching the game with my boys, my fraternity bros, and guys. I'll meet up over there, and obviously the sorority girls. A wink, wink. That'll be a fun weekend all the way around, and definitely rooting for the Spartans to get their first W. I think they deserve it with how well they played against Oregon. Holding it close. They only lost again by 13 in that game, but the game itself, it was a lot closer than the final score indicated. 35-22 was the final in that game up in Oregon. One of the toughest stadiums to play in all of college football. But Spartans are still learning. Josh Oliver, I really like what I'm seeing from him. Big tight end, number 89. Watch out for him to have a big game. Watch out for Josh Love and Montel Aaron, that quarterback duo, to find Josh Oliver early and often, and they got to establish the running game as well. It's been relatively quiet during the last two games, Washington State and Oregon. Just not being able to get any production on the ground, but it's up to the offensive line to create holes, to create seams. For Zamora Ziegler, Malik Roberson to bullet through and to do damage. But I'm gonna pencil in this game as the Spartans win. Spartans get their first win of the season this Saturday, 4 p.m. at CFQ Stadium. Book it, and definitely hope to be right on that bet. So I'm not throwing money down at all or anything like that. Anyway, that is all I have for you guys today. This is the second episode of Outside Looking In. I'm just an outsider looking into the biggest sports headlines, man. I'm Dale Watkins. I appreciate y'all tuning in. I will be uploading this video to my YouTube channel, where I will post all my podcasts for Outside Looking In, so you guys can rewatch them, and hope y'all show some love. Give me a like, comment, subscribe onto my YouTube channel. Just search Dale Watkins. You'll find me over there. You'll find my Avi for those of y'all who know what I look like. Also, hook it up with a follow on Instagram at I am Dale Watkins. That's at I am Dale Watkins. I'll definitely follow you back, and you get a glimpse into my life. This is something I love doing. So once again, I appreciate y'all tuning in. This is the second episode of a long series to come, hopefully, of Outside Looking In. And thanks again. I appreciate y'all. Have a good night, y'all. See you next time.